Hey everybody, this is the Happy Critic, because as everybody knows, critics, especially film critics, are the happiest people out there. Today's kind of a dark, dreary, rainy day, and so I was thinking I should probably review a movie that's kind of dark and dreary. And that brings me to Black Phone. Black Phone is a movie directed by Scott Derrickson, I believe, and it stars Ethan Hawke. Scott Derrickson also directed the movie Sinister, which also starred Ethan Hawke, and that movie was actually pretty good and a pretty effective horror movie. Black Phone is a movie that I've been kind of looking forward to for probably like a year or so. As soon as I saw the preview, I was like, all right, that movie looks pretty cool. It's like a horror thriller, and it's about this little boy, and it's set in the 1970s, 1978, and he gets abducted by this pretty much this like psycho murderer guy and put into his basement, and he has to figure out how to survive. And one way that he's able to do that is there is a phone in there. There's a black phone in there, and the victims of this murderer, like the ghost of the victims of this murderer, are able to call Finney, our main character, on this phone, and they try to help him survive and escape. So first off, I just want to say, I just want to start with some positives. This movie, the acting in it is superb. Ethan Hawke's just been kind of killing it right now. I feel like he kind of disappeared for a little bit, and now all of a sudden he's like back and he's like in everything, and I kind of forgot about him. But like, he's such a good actor, and he's just, I don't know. But yeah, he does a great job in this movie. But honestly, he's almost overshadowed by the little boy that plays Finney, Mason Thames, I believe. He nails it. Like, God, he's such a freaking good actor, and he's just this little kid, and you're like, how are you doing this? And then everyone else just does a great job. The director of this movie is Scott Derrickson, and he's the same guy that did Sinister, which also had Ethan Hawke in it, and he's really good at making you the audience feel like you're in the real world. So he did this with Sinister too, so that when something supernatural or paranormal or scary does happen, it's a lot more effective, even compared to another like horror film that might be a lot more loud and gory. Because it seems so much more grounded, it feels like it could actually happen, and it's just more effective. The movie is set in 1978, but of course it was like filmed and directed like recently, but you almost can't even tell. Like, it's not like nostalgia 1978. It's like where you're there and it's like all these cutesy things and all these like flamboyant things from the 70s are not there. It actually feels like, when you're watching it feels like it's a movie that was made in 1978. I also really enjoyed the concept and the idea for this film. This film is based off of a short story that I have not read, so I don't know how to compare it to that. But I really like the idea of like a real life situation, a scary, horrible situation with supernatural and paranormal elements to it. The only problem is I kind of wish they would have done a little more with that supernatural element to it, because the idea is really cool, but the execution is, while it's not bad, I feel like it could be better. I thought there was going to be maybe a little more to it, especially with the supernatural. I thought there was a lot more that they were going to explore with that, and they didn't really. And I feel like it was a little bit of a missed opportunity. I feel like there was a lot more that they could have done with that. But, I mean, I'm not the one that made it. And so this could be a little bit of my fault, I guess. I kind of had a preconceived idea of what I thought was going to happen. I really thought that at one point, the Ethan Hawke's character, the grabber, was going to call the kid. And it was going to be kind of like the ghost of him as a kid. Ethan Hawke's character, I don't remember his name. I'm just going to call him the grabber because that's what they call him. I thought Finney was going to hear from this little boy, and he was going to be the main little boy that was talking to him. And I thought it was going to be the grabber when he was a kid. And that part of him died. because he was abused and he turned into a monster. So that there's that ghost of him, the ghost of who he could have been and who he was when he was a child, because he wasn't always evil, he wasn't always a monster kind of things. And I thought they were going to go in like a direction similar to that. Like there was going to be, I just thought there was going to be more than what they showed me in the preview, and there's not. What you see in the preview, that's what it's about. There's nothing else really to it. Another thing is they don't really like delve into the grabber's past or anything. They don't explain why he is the way he is, which I guess isn't, you don't necessarily need that. You can kind of just like connect the dots a little bit to figure it out. But Ethan Hawke, the grabber, he does say something about spending time down there in that basement as well. And so you kind of get the idea that maybe something similar like this happened to him. And they kind of build up like ideas in this movie, and then they never really do anything with them. And that's kind of how I felt with the grabber. Like they kind of built up this character. You thought you were going to maybe get to know him a little bit, to see who he was, you know, a little bit. Especially like what does he do? He's a magician. And how the hell does he own 2 houses and he's a magician? I think he's a magician. He's a magician with the creepiest mask I've ever seen. So I don't think he's a magician for freaking children. At least they never show that. And I kind of wish they would have showed that, because if that's what he does, then you could see, oh, that's how he picks out his victims. But that isn't how he picks out his victims. So he just has this big van, unless he just made that big black van and he doesn't really have a job doing that. But then what does he do? It never really, you never figure that out. And I guess it doesn't really matter. I guess the story's not about him. It's just about Finney. And so let's get into Finney a little bit. So the character of Finney, he's supposed to kind of have an arc where he's able to stand up and fight for himself. And because he gets bullied a lot. But I remember when I was watching it, they show that Finney is, for one, like the kid, he's not like a goofy looking kid. He looks like he's probably gonna be like probably a dish when he gets older. So it's not this kid, like, no. And he's maybe a little bit shy, but he's like a star pitcher in baseball, and he's a really good pitcher. And I was like, okay, what about him makes him like a big target for bullies, especially when these dweebs that bully him look like the people that would be bullied. So I just didn't really understand why he was being picked on, but that's okay. In this movie, I don't think they're like in a huge town. And it is 1978, so I understand like things were a little different. Like kids had a lot more freedom to just go hang out in neighborhoods and stuff. But they show that I think Finney is either like the 6th or like the 5th child that's been abducted in a fairly short amount of time. 6 or 5 children have gone missing, and people are still just letting their kids run around, and I just don't feel like they would do that. I feel like people would be a lot more like, yeah, we need to have a lot more, like, you need to come in before this time, you need to do that, blah, 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 you're not allowed to walk over there. I feel like that would happen in a small town, even in whatever era we're in. But I mean, whatever, that's kind of just like a little bit of a nitpick, but it just seems a little weird. I'm like, okay. So apparently the grabber has a brother. The detectives show up at the house, and the grabber's brother, Max, he's played by James Ranson, and he's all like he thinks he's figured out like where the grabber probably lives and stuff like that. And he doesn't realize that the grabber has a kid in the basement. So I just don't understand how the character, the brother, Max, wouldn't figure that out. Because at one point, Ethan Hawke, the grabber, leaves the door open because he wants the little boy to come up to like play or something. It's really gross. But that seems really risky if you're living with somebody. At first, because at one point you figure out the grabber owns 2 houses, like I mentioned before. I don't know how. I don't even know what he does for a living. Apparently he's a magician. And one house in the basement, they have all the bodies buried. And then in the other house in the basement is where he keeps the live kids. I was thinking that Max, his brother, was living in the house where the basement just had the dead kids in it, and that's the reason he wasn't able to hear anything, and that's the reason why the grabber was a lot more like daring to do stuff in that house, like literally willing to leave the door open to have that kid come up. But I'm pretty sure that's not how it worked. I'm pretty sure Max was living in the house where that little boy was in the basement. And I know that basement was soundproof, but still, it was just kind of weird. And also, I just think that Max's character was completely pointless, because you could take him out and it doesn't do really one thing. I don't know why he's in there. At one point, he figures it out and he goes down to the basement and he finds Finney, and then he just gets killed right away. So it's just kind of like, okay, why are you here? Or what's your purpose or whatnot? But I'll get off of that now. Okay, so that character seemed a little bit pointless, yeah. But fun fact real fast, James Ranson, if you don't know who he is, he plays the adult Eddie in It Chapter 2. But yes, I feel like this movie kind of, I mean, I'll use this as an analogy because I think this is appropriate, but it's kind of like taking a balloon and you're like blowing it up, because it's like, it's giving us a lot of content, a lot of ideas that are kind of interesting. But then instead of like going blowing and blowing, blowing, and it pops, it kind of blows, and then you just kind of let the air out a little bit and goes, blah, blah, blah. And that's kind of what this movie felt like. It felt like it kind of was like building to something, and then it kind of just got deflated a little bit, because it just seems a little bit like, oh, okay, well, all right. Like the way it ends, it builds things up. There's like ideas, like we don't know who the grabber is. We don't know why he became the grabber. We know that Finney's little sister has like kind of like psychic powers or something, and I think he does too, because obviously he's sensitive to the supernatural, and apparently that's how their mother was, and their mother committed suicide. It never delves into that more. Why did she commit suicide? I guess the voices told her to, so maybe she was like listening to hearing like dead people or something, or maybe she got tired of hearing those dead people. I don't know. But it doesn't really do anything with that either. I also think that these cops are not the brightest, because that's a lot of kids to go missing, and it seems like you guys don't have any leads. You guys haven't figured anything out. Like, they know that black balloons were left at all the sites where those children were taken. All right, well, you guys are in a small town. Why don't you go around, because that's a lot of black balloons. Someone had to go buy a bunch of them. They didn't do it online. So unless he went like out of state, maybe go around to stores and like check on like if anybody remembers if somebody came in and bought a bunch of freaking black balloons and what they looked like. Black balloons aren't like the most popular, I don't think. I mean, they could be. I have no idea, actually, especially in 1978. Who knows? But I don't know. So this isn't like a complaint or anything negative. I just think it's funny because, so they got a really cool mask for Ethan Hawke to wear, and it's a really creepy mask. But I'm hoping that the creators, aren't thinking that they're gonna be selling these masks like the Scream mask, or like Michael Myers or something like that. If they think that they're gonna get like a bunch of Halloween grabbers, I'm gonna say I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't know if that's what they're trying to do, and I don't know if we'll even see those masks, but I'll tell you why we're not gonna be seeing them. I mean, and I could be wrong. Halloween hasn't come yet, but I could be wrong. But when you have like notorious killers, like scary killers in films, and people like they like them, they like Michael Myers, they want to dress up as Michael Myers, they want to dress up as Pennywise, blah blah blah. The problem is the grabber, hence I mean even the name, he's a child molester, and I don't think anybody wants to dress up. I mean, people will dress up as serial murderers, and even people will dress up as Pennywise, and he kills children, but he wasn't a child molester. Pennywise is not as bad as the grabber. Let's just, okay, that's the truth. It's just, people think there's edgy And then there's just gross. And if you're dressing up as a child molester, it's kind of gross. And I think people realize that. They don't want to dress up as somebody called the grabber that grabs children and puts them in their basement to do who knows what. Like, that's weird. So I don't know if they were trying to do that. It's a cool mask, but I bet you anything, no one wants to be the grabber for Halloween, okay? That's just my opinion, and it has nothing to do with the movie. So, I mean, it does, but it doesn't have anything to do with, like, why I like it or not. I think the mask is really cool. I just don't think anybody's going to be the grabber for Halloween. And like I said, I could be wrong. But if those people do that, I think it's because they are unaware of who the grabber is. They haven't put it together for some reason. Overall, though, like, this is a good movie. It's directed really well. It's acted very well. I like the way that this director directs horror. It's dark and realistic and subtle, and I appreciate it. And I'd like to see more movies from him. And so I can't not recommend it. I enjoyed it. I was a little disappointed, but that was probably more from what I was wanting. I thought it was going to be a little bit different, and so that's kind of on me. But other than that, yeah, I think it was good. I don't think I'd ever watch it again, though. I don't think it was like that interesting. I don't think it's a movie where I'm like, oh wow, there's so many layers to it and I'm gonna need to watch it again. Very basic movie. And I feel like the story is too basic, that it doesn't deserve the acting in the direction that it got, if that makes any sense. I keep saying that. Overall, I still recommend it, and I know that a lot of people liked it, so I hope to see more movies directed by Scott Derrickson. I thought it was Dickerson. But anyways, and I can't wait to see more movies with Ethan Hawke. That'll be kind of cool. Okay, I'd probably give this movie like a 6. And that is okay, maybe I'd give it a 5. A 5 because I wouldn't want to watch it again. And I wouldn't enjoy watching it again, honestly. Well, that's it, guys. That's all I have for today. Tell me what you thought about this movie, if you disagree with me. Tell me if you are planning on going as the grabber for Halloween. If you are, let me know, because I think it's weird. But you do you, okay? Just don't grab anybody, all right? Don't be creepy. Especially don't grab any children. Yeah. But okay, you know what? Just keep watching movies, guys, and keep being happy. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
The kids used to call me the grabber.